the Finding Proof live show. It's been a little bit higgledy-piggledy lately with getting the live show to you all at a regular time. So as the new year has started, as 2019 is now well and truly underway, it's probably about time I got myself a little bit more organised and got my diary into action so I can settle on a regular weekly time slot for the live show. So my apologies if you've been looking for me at 10 a.m. on a Thursday morning in Australia and whatever time that equates to in your part of the world. I am working on taming my diary and bringing it under control so that I can be a little bit more reliable and predictable if you're following this show live. Today I want to talk to you about this notion of separating out our achievements from our sense of self-worth, our sense of self, our sense of growth, if you like. So I don't know if you've seen the live coaching sessions I've been doing with Evan Carmichael. The second episode in that series went live today on YouTube. So if you're searching for me and Evan Carmichael on YouTube, I think if you are searching under the hashtag climb to 10M, as he climbs to 10 million subscribers, you may well find us. I have certainly shared on my Finding Proof page on Facebook the link to that YouTube video. So if you can't find it on YouTube, you'll certainly find it on my Finding Proof Facebook page or my personal profile on Facebook. So Evan and I, in this most recent episode, we were talking about some areas of vulnerability for him. So we talked a little bit about how he felt weird as a kid growing up. And I think a lot of us, especially those with a bit of an entrepreneurial spirit, see ourselves as being a little bit weird, a little bit different growing up, not the average kid. In Australia, you know, the typical kid is going to be into their sporting activities, going to be into surfing activities or beach activities. For the boys, the stereotype is cricket, football, rugby. For girls, the stereotype is netball. I was never one of those kids, and my kids aren't those kids either. So in our family, it's certainly not weird to buck the stereotype, but I know growing up, I certainly felt a little bit other. My parents divorced when I was 6 years old, and I remember feeling like I was the only kid on the planet that had gone through something like that, because it wasn't something that was talked about. I was 6 years old in 1976, so it was shortly after divorce laws were made a bit gentler for couples to navigate in Australia. And so I think it was, you know, fairly, it just wasn't as openly discussed as it is today. And so I grew up feeling a little bit weird, a little bit other, a little bit like an alien amongst humans sometimes. And I think that's what Evan was talking about in the video in this coaching session this week, is that he felt a little bit other, and we couldn't quite get to the bottom of why that was. But one thing that came up was that we talked also about this thing that he has going on about saying, you know, I really wish someone would just tell me where I suck so that I can improve that and get better. And we untangled in our conversation the difference between his sense of self as an individual, because he will also say, I'm awesome, because he's pretty awesome, isn't he? And so we looked at the balance between, well, are you awesome or do you suck? Like, where is the distinction here? And so for Evan, it was very much this idea that he thinks he's a great human being. He thinks he's got a lot of skill, a lot of talent to share with other entrepreneurs to help boost them, which is very true, he certainly does. But also, he is open to being shown where he can improve. So one of the things he was talking about was this idea of decoupling your sense of self-worth and sense of value, sense of achievement from the outcome of the things that you're trying to do. Now, I think in business in particular, but life generally, it is really important that we have a look at this notion of decoupling our sense of achievement from our sense of self-worth, from the things that we do well and don't do so well. So you might have heard the phrase growth mindset. Now, this is something that is very much a popular topic, certainly in schools at the moment. A lot of the schools now are really focusing, certainly in Australia, I can't speak for other countries, but certainly in Australia, a lot of the schools now are really focusing on teaching kids about growth mindset, letting kids know that when you work hard or don't work hard, that's going to influence the outcomes. It's not about whether you're smart enough or not. It's about learning to problem solve, learning from the things that you haven't done so well, learning how you can do things differently so you might do better next time. This idea that your capacity to improve your outcomes is linked to a flexible attribute, which is effort. Intelligence is a fixed attribute. So having a fixed mindset where you're stuck on the idea that if you can't do something, it's because you're not smart enough. If you believe you're not smart enough to do something, like learn French, for example, you're not going to try again in future. You're going to give that away and say, well, I'm not smart enough to do that, so I'm just going to go and do this thing instead, which might not be something as interesting to you. So a growth mindset really encourages you as an individual to remember that if you really, really want something, it's about the effort you put in. And it's about getting creative in how you problem solve. So this is what Evan's talking about. He's talking about how my skill set can be tweaked and nurtured and shifted and shaped and changed so that I can grow for him as a YouTube presenter and an entrepreneurial coach, if you like. For me, I very much in my business look at that growth mindset as an opportunity, holding really dear the idea of maintaining my own growth mindset so that when things go really, really well, I'm looking at what did I do that maximized that potential outcome, that positive outcome. Because how can I replicate it? How can I do it again? Or how can I do it even better next time? It's just as much as if something doesn't go so well, what have I learnt from that experience that I could do differently next time? Or if perhaps the circumstances were different, might it still work in the future if I tweak one or two little things? So from a business perspective, so many entrepreneurs get stuck standing on the edge of the diving board. So you're standing on the edge of the diving board, your toes hanging right over the edge of that diving board. You're clinging on for life thinking, jump, 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 do the thing, in other words. Take that leap, do that risky thing, make that decision. And you cling to the edge of that diving board thinking, yeah, but what if? What if I belly flop and it really hurts? Or what if I really embarrass myself? Or what if? So many times in business, there are these moments where we have the opportunity to leap off the diving board and do something outside our comfort zone, or something that makes us feel vulnerable, or something that's out of kilter with what our peers might be doing or what our peers might think is acceptable. And that's that fear of judgment coming in there. And we get frozen, we get stuck. So what do we need to do to take action? Think about working on having a growth mindset. Because if you firmly believe that all experience contributes to your growth and your knowledge set and your skill base, then perhaps you feel a little bit braver about jumping off that diving board and seeing what happens, testing the waters, finding out how you land, finding out how you might land differently next time. Because it's not about whether you're smart enough. It's not about whether or not you've got the training or the skills or the talent. You've got all that stuff. You've got the experience you need. All that stuff is there. What stops you is fear of, fill in the blanks, fear of judgment, fear of criticism, fear of embarrassment, fear of failure, fear of letting others down. That's Evan's big one. Fear of letting yourself down. Fear of success. Have you come across that one? For so many people, there's a fear of success. What if I get what I want? What's that going to look like? What if I write a book and it's a big success, and then I have to do all these book tours, and then I have to do all this publicity, and then. Like, people really do screw themselves over with those what ifs, whether it's fear of something negative or fear of getting what you're hoping for. So have a think about that. Have a think about how many times you find yourself standing on the edge of that diving board and feeling stuck. And thinking, oh, if only I could make a decision. If only I could just do this thing. If only I could just say to hell with it and dive anyway. The outcome is not going to be the end of the world. The outcome doesn't define who you are. The outcome isn't a statement of your skill set. It isn't a statement of your intelligence or attractiveness or talent or whatever it is you think it's a judgment on. The outcome is just an outcome of one experiment that you're doing in your business or in your life. So when you think of it that way, you're playing scientist. I've talked about this before. You're playing scientist in your business. You're running an experiment, testing the outcome, seeing if it fits with what you hoped would happen. So testing your hypothesis, in other words, and then finding an opportunity to tweak it afterwards. Even when your worst fear comes to fruition, how many times has it actually been as bad as you thought it might be? Look at the evidence that you've already got. You've already got certain amount of success in your business. You've already started, or you've already gathered all the things together that you need to start. You've already come up with a bunch of ideas. You've already got enough little bits of evidence to prove to you that this could be a goer. And then you get stuck, standing on the edge of that diving board. Take the leap. Take the leap. Because the worst really that can happen is you'll learn something. And it might surprise you what it is that you do learn. It might surprise you that it's not as bad as you thought it was going to be. You might surprise yourself and actually succeed. Heaven forbid. So, growth mindset. Uncoupling or decoupling this belief that the outcome is a statement on who you are and what your capacity is. They are different things. And when you truly believe that it's the effort you put in, it's the creativity you bring to the table, it's the ideas that you throw around, but more importantly, it's the taking of action that determines whether or not you can move up to the next level. Because certainly if you take no action, I can guarantee you won't. It's as simple as that. So that's it from me for today, for this week's Finding Proof Live show. Now remember, if you're watching on YouTube, you can subscribe to my channel and get regular videos, at least weekly, if not more frequently than that. If you're watching on Facebook, make sure you're following my Finding Proof page. Feel free to follow my personal profile as well, because there's lots of content on Facebook. I'm also on Instagram, so if you want to follow me on Instagram, please do. I've got a growing community on Instagram following me, and I'm really enjoying that platform at the moment. I'm also on Twitter. So however you want to get your little bits of information from me, make sure that you are subscribing, that your notifications are turned on, and I look forward to interacting with you all again very soon. And don't be afraid to ask questions in the comments or while I'm live. Thank you for joining me live, Amanda. It was really lovely to have you there. I could see you there. I'll talk to you all again very soon. Have a fabulous day. Bye-bye for now. And